Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, dear students. I hope you're all doing well. So, dear students, today we will start a new unit number 3 on page 50, School Days. So, dear students, here we have a classic fiction. Now, what is a classic fiction? Dear students, a classic fiction is a novel or it is a piece of writing that represents a genre or a writing style. Now, this lesson is an extract from Charles Dickens' work Hard Times. This work of peace was published in 1854. Charles Dickens was an English writer, the most famous of the 19th century, and he thought that there are some schools in England, those were very cruel and unkind, and he wanted to tell his readers how bad some schools were. So let's start. The first lesson, the schoolmaster. Charles Dickens is a famous 19th century English writer. In many of his novels, he wrote about schools. He thought that many schools in England were harsh, mean, cruel, or unkind, and he wanted to tell his readers how bad some schools were. This text on the facing page comes from Hard Times, which was published in 1854. The schoolmaster, Mr. Gradgrind, wants his pupils to have nothing to do with imagination and just to learn the facts. So, dear students, this text is about a schoolmaster, Mr. Gradgrind, who wants his students to have nothing to do with the imagination, and they just need to learn the facts of life. Now, reading for detail. 1. Why did the writer describe Mr. Gradgrind as a canon? Number 2. Mr. Gradgrind calls Sissy girl number 20. What does this tell you about his ideas about education? Number 3. What do you think Mr. Gradgrind thinks of Sissy's father's profession? How do Bitzer and Sissy differ in appearance? Number 5. How do the responses of Sissy and Bitzer to Mr. Gradgrind's question differ? Now, dear students, these are some questions, and you will get the answers for these questions after studying the text or listening to the lecture. Now, here is reading for interpretation using your imagination. Interpreting a writer's words is different from understanding their meaning. In the task above, you selected facts and information. To do that, you had to understand the words and their meanings. Now you are going to interpret them. You are going to use your imagination. Don't tell Mr. Gradgrind. Here is an example from the text, The Schoolmaster. Please, sir, Sissy Jupe. Sir answered, girl number 20, blushing. Now here we will start the text on page 51, The Schoolmaster. Thomas Gradgrind saw his pupils as little empty jugs to be filled full of facts. He was like a cannon. A cannon here means a big mounted gun which fires out heavy cannonballs at the enemy. Loaded with facts, and he was ready to blow his pupils out of the regions of childhood into the regions of facts. Imagination was to be blown away. So, dear students, this is the first paragraph, the first 3 lines. In these lines, Mr. Gradgrind saw his pupils and he found them as little empty jugs which need to be filled full of facts. Facts. What are facts? The facts are facts mean here a thing that is known and proved to be true. Now he was like a cannon. Here the cannon means that he was loaded with the facts and he was ready to blow his pupils, his students out of their state or their period of being a child, and so he was ready to bring out his students of being a child into the regions of facts. Imagination was to be blown away. So Sir Gradgrind believed in facts rather than imagination, and he wanted his students to be factious rather than imaginative. Girl number 20 called Mr. Gradgrind, pointing his finger at a new pupil. Who are you, girl? Please, sir, Sissy Jupe, sir, answered girl number 20, blushing. Now he called a new student, girl number 20, who are you? He pointed his finger towards her and asked her, girl number 20, who are you? So the girl replied with shyness, please, sir, Sissy Jupe. She meant that my name is Sissy Jupe, not girl number 20. Sissy is not a name, girl number 20. Call yourself Cecilia, said Mr. Gradgrind sternly. So he told Sissy that it's not a name, girl number 20. He called her again girl number 20, and he said that call yourself Cecilia, and he said all these things in a serious and angry manner. My father calls me Sissy, sir, whispered Sissy. Now she told him that my father called me with the name Sissy. Whispered here means to speak very softly. Then tell him he should not. And what is your father? Asked the schoolmaster. Please, sir, a horsebreaker, Sissy answered. Horsebreaker means someone who trains and tames horses so that they can wear a saddle and be ridden. So he breaks in horses, does he? Very well. Tell me your definition of a horse, Cecilia ordered Mr. Gradgrind. So now as she told Mr. Gradgrind that her father is a horsebreaker, now he is asking her that what is the definition of a horse according to you, and here he called her Cecilia again rather than Sissy. Sissy blushed more deeply and was unable to utter a sound. So she was too shy and she was even unable to say a word. Girl number 20 has not the necessary facts to define a horse, cried Mr. Gradgrind harshly. He pointed to a pale boy. Bitzer, we will turn to you. Okay, dear students, so pale here mean light in color. Necessary facts mean the needed facts or the required facts. Cried here mean shouted, and harshly mean in an unpleasant way. So Mr. Gradgrind said that girl number 20 has not the required facts and she don't know about the facts to define a horse, and he became angry with her reply. Now he pointed to a boy named Bitzer. We will turn to you. Now, Mr. Gradgrind's square finger had alighted on Bitzer because he happened to be sitting in the same ray of sunlight which, darting in from one of the bare windows, lit up Sissy. But whereas Sissy was so dark-haired and dark-eyed that she seemed to receive a deeper and more lustrous color from the sun when it shone upon her, the boy was so light-eyed and light-haired that the same rays of the sun seemed to draw out from him what little color he possessed. His cold eyes were pale, his short, cropped hair looked a continuation of his pale and prickly face. His skin was so unwholesomely pale that he looked as though if he were cut he would bleed white. Now here is the character sketch of Sissy and Bitzer. Sissy was so dark-haired and dark-eyed, and she seemed to receive a deeper and more lustrous color from the sun when it shone upon her, while Bitzer was so light-eyed and light-haired that the same rays of sun seemed to draw out from him what little color he possessed. So here, pale, light in color, freckly, small brown spots on face, wholesomely unwholesomely unhelpful. Now, Bitzer, Mr. Gradgrind continued, your definition of a horse. Now he is asking, Mr. Gradgrind is asking Bitzer to define a horse. Quadruped here means an animal with 4 feet, an ungulated mammal, especially a horse. So, quadruped, sir, Bitzer answered immediately. Graminivorous mean grass eating. 40 teeth, sheds caught in the spring, hoofs hard, edge known by markings in the mouth. Hoofs here mean the hard part of the bottom of the feet of a horse. So, Bitzer defined horse as grass eating with 40 teeth, sheds caught in the spring, and hoofs hard, and the edge of a horse is known by markings in the mouth. The facts poured from the boy, and more would have followed if Mr. Gradgrind had not interrupted him. So, the facts were rushed from the boy, and he would have defined the horse in a more simple manner with details, but Mr. Gradgrind on the spot interrupted him. And now, girl number 20, you know what a horse is. Facts. You are to be ruled at all times by facts. You must have nothing to do with imagination. In this life, we want nothing but facts. Now, he asked girl number 20, Sissy, again. She called her girl number 20 again, and he asked him that, now you know that what a horse is. Facts. You must be ruled by facts all the time, and you must have nothing to do with fancy or with thoughts. In this life, all we need is nothing but the facts. Sissy curtsied again and would have blushed more deeply if she could have blushed more deeply than she had blushed all this time. So, curtsy here means an act of respect or a gesture of respect. So Sissy showed respect again, and she felt so shy more deeply if she could have shy more deeply then this was the time that she was shy the most. Okay, dear students, so this was your lecture for today. I hope you will understand it, but read it for once and write down the answers of the questions on page number 50. Thank you, dear students. Allah Hafiz.